The terminal was buzzing with the usual chaos: flight delays, loudspeaker announcements, passengers dragging suitcases like tired soldiers. Among them, Clara Jennings, a soft-spoken woman in her late 20s, sat quietly in gate 24 with her backpack on her lap and her return ticket to Portland clenched in hand. Her eyes were hollow, evidence of the 14-hour nursing shift she had just finished, and the last-minute call from her sister urging her to come home. This was her first vacation in 2 years. And it wasn't even a vacation, it was to say goodbye to her dying grandmother. She hadn't eaten since morning. She hadn't slept in 2 days. But all she cared about now was getting on that flight. Suddenly, the sharp cry of a toddler pierced the terminal noise. A few seats away, a young father struggled with his child. The little girl, no older than 4, sobbed uncontrollably while clinging to her stuffed elephant. The man looked drained, disheveled, and entirely helpless. Sweat stained his shirt. His eyes were red. He held a boarding pass in one hand, a bottle in the other, and somehow still managed to rock the stroller with his foot. Then came the announcement. Greater than, attention passengers of Flight 327 to Portland. Due to overbooking, we're looking for one volunteer to give up their seat. Compensation will be provided. Please come to the front desk. Everyone looked away. No one budged. People were glued to their tickets like lifelines. Clara looked at the child again, her tiny face twisted in misery, her soft voice barely audible as she mumbled, "I wanna go home, Daddy." Without a word, Clara stood up, walked to the front desk, and whispered, "I'll give up my seat." The agent blinked. "Ma'am, are you sure?" She nodded. The father watched in disbelief. He didn't know her. They hadn't spoken. But in that moment, this stranger had sacrificed her only chance to get home on time, so his daughter could. As Clara walked back, he approached her hesitantly. I don't even know what to say." She gave him a tired smile. "You don't have to say anything. Just get her home safe." Before he could respond, the final boarding call echoed, and he was swept away in the stream of passengers. Clara sat down again, watching them disappear through the gate. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that the tired dad she helped was Daniel Reed, the elusive billionaire CEO of Reed Core Enterprises, disguised in worn-out jeans and an old hoodie to escape a media frenzy. The child wasn't an actor. She was his real daughter, Lila, whose mother had passed away last year. He hadn't slept either, but not because of work. Because grief still visited him every night. And now, a stranger had given him the first moment of peace he'd had in months. 3 hours later, Clara sat in the dim corner of the terminal, eyes fluttering from exhaustion, waiting for the next available flight. Her phone vibrated. Greater than, "Sis, Gran's still hanging in there. But I'm glad you're on your way. Love you." She didn't reply. Instead, she leaned her head against the wall, heart aching not from fatigue, but something else. Why did she give up her seat? She didn't even know them. But deep down, she did. She saw a man who reminded her of her own father, who had raised 2 girls alone after their mother passed. She remembered the nights he rocked her sister to sleep, never once asking for help, and always putting them first. She gave up the seat, because she knew how it felt to not be seen. She drifted off to sleep. Meanwhile, somewhere high in the clouds, Daniel Reed sat stunned in his first-class seat, holding Lila as she finally rested. But his thoughts were all on Clara. "Who does that?" he murmured to himself. "Who gives up their seat, and disappears?" He made a silent vow to find her. Not to pay her back, but to know her. He had billions, but he'd never met someone like her. And in that moment, Daniel Reed, the man Forbes called the Iron King, felt something soft melt inside his chest. Green Circle Chapter 2, The CEO, the Nurse, and a Promise Fulfilled. 2 days later, Clara stood at the foot of her grandmother's bed, holding her wrinkled hand and brushing back snowy white hair. Her grandmother smiled weakly. "You look tired, baby," the old woman whispered. "I am," Clara replied with a soft chuckle. "But I made it, and you got here because you gave up your seat." "How do you know that?" Her sister smirked from the doorway. "Everyone at the hospital's talking about it. Someone filmed the whole thing. You're on TikTok. People are calling you the seat angel." Clara flushed. Oh no. But what she didn't know was that the video had already gone viral. And someone else had seen it too. Meanwhile, in a towering glass building in the heart of Seattle, Daniel Reed stared at the screen in his office. His assistant stood beside him, phone in hand. That's her, Daniel murmured. Find her. But sir, she didn't leave a name. I don't care if it takes all week. She gave up her seat for me and my daughter. I need to know who she is. That night, Clara received a call she didn't expect. Hi, this might sound strange, but a Mr. Daniel Reed would like to speak with you. She blinked. The Daniel Reed. Within 24 hours, she was flown back to Seattle, not on a public flight, but in a private jet. She had no idea why. All she had was a note that read, "Greater than, you gave us a seat. Now let me give you a chance." When she arrived, she was escorted to the rooftop of Reed Core Tower, where Daniel stood waiting, Lila holding his hand. "I wanted to say thank you, properly," he began. "But I also wanted to offer you something." Clara's jaw tightened. "I didn't do it for a reward." "I know," Daniel said softly. "That's exactly why you deserve one." He handed her a portfolio. Inside, a scholarship for her sister's education, full payment of her grandmother's medical bills, and an offer to head up Reed Care, our new foundation focused on single parents, nurses, and working-class heroes. With full salary, full benefits, and full freedom to run it how you see fit. Clara blinked back tears. "Why me?" "Because when you gave up that seat, you reminded me that people still care. That kindness isn't extinct, and I want my daughter," he said, glancing at Lila, "to grow up knowing people like you." 3 months later, Clara stood at the launch event of Reed Care, dressed not in scrubs, but in a navy suit with her name on the plaque. Reporters snapped photos, and in the crowd, Lila waved excitedly, Daniel standing tall behind her. He didn't just hire Clara. He began to admire her. Her compassion, her leadership, her laughter that filled rooms. Slowly, carefully, he began falling, not just in gratitude, but something deeper. And Clara, she found herself wondering why the man she once gave a seat to, was now giving her a reason to dream again. Clapperboard back to CEO, final monologue to the audience. Sometimes, life gives you a moment to act, just one. She gave up her seat without knowing I had the power to change her life. But the truth is, she changed mine. So if you ever get that moment, don't hesitate. Be kind. Be the reason someone believes again. And maybe, just maybe, your story will change too. Yellow heart. If you were touched by Clara's kindness and Daniel's journey, hit that like button and subscribe for more heart-touching stories that prove one small action can spark a lifetime of change. Yellow heart. 3 months had passed since Clara Jennings gave up her flight ticket in a crowded airport terminal for a father and his exhausted little girl. What she didn't know then, could never have imagined, was that the man she gave it to wasn't just any dad. He was Daniel Reed, the elusive and powerful CEO of Reed Core Enterprises, a man whose face rarely appeared in public, whose name was whispered in boardrooms and printed across headlines, but whose heart, until that day, had remained locked behind layers of grief and guilt. That single act of kindness had opened a door in him, one he thought had been sealed forever. Clara hadn't seen it as a big deal. To her, it was simple human decency. But to Daniel, it was a miracle. He had returned from Portland, tucked Lila into bed, and sat awake for hours that night, the image of Clara's gentle smile burning into his mind. She didn't ask for anything, didn't leave a name, and disappeared as quickly as she had come. But the world didn't let her go unnoticed. Someone at the airport had captured the exchange on video, Clara standing, walking quietly to the front desk, and giving up her seat without a second of hesitation. Within 48 hours, that moment was trending on every platform. The seat angel, they called her. And that's when Daniel saw it. He paused the clip, zoomed in. Her, he told his assistant. Find her. Clara had been busy with her usual routine. Back at the hospital, she worked double shifts to cover her grandmother's medication, juggling bills, groceries, and her sister's school applications. The video, she didn't even know it existed until her coworker shoved a phone into her face and said, "You're famous." Clara laughed at first, then cringed at the attention. That wasn't what she wanted. She just wanted to help. But then a call came from a private number. "Ms. Clara Jennings, this is Melissa from Reed Core Enterprises. Mr. Daniel Reed would like to speak with you." Clara's heart nearly stopped. "Excuse me, the Daniel Reed." The woman on the line chuckled softly. "Yes, he's requesting a meeting." "But why me?" Clara asked. "He said, you already changed his life. Now he wants to change yours." When she stepped off the private jet and onto the helipad of Reed Core Tower, Clara felt like she had been transported into a different world. The skyline stretched behind her like a painting. She wore her best jeans and an oversized coat, completely unaware of the impression she would make. Daniel met her at the rooftop, no suit, no bodyguards, just him and Lila, who ran up and hugged Clara's leg without hesitation. "You were the lady from the airport," the little girl chirped. Clara knelt down, tears threatening to rise. "And you were the brave girl who made it home." Daniel stepped forward, extending his hand. "Clara, thank you, for seeing us. For helping us." She shook his hand. "You're welcome, but really, it was nothing." "To you," Daniel said softly. "But to me, it was everything." They walked together inside. Daniel led her to the top-floor conference room, not to impress her, but to offer her something real. On the table was a folder. Inside was a fully paid scholarship for her sister, a complete medical sponsorship for her grandmother, and a formal job offer. "Read Care," Daniel explained, "is a foundation I've wanted to launch for years. But I never knew who to trust with it, until I met you. I want you to lead it. Shape it, make it yours." Clara blinked, stunned. "But I'm just a nurse. I don't have experience in." "You have compassion," he interrupted. "You have the one thing I can't teach or buy. And you've lived the struggles we want to fight." Clara looked up, eyes glassy. "Are you sure?" "Clara," Daniel smiled, "I've never been more sure." She accepted. In the weeks that followed, Read Care became a movement. Under Clara's guidance, it created emergency housing for single mothers, offered scholarships to caregivers, and even opened food banks in 2 cities. The press took notice, but what they didn't see, what only Clara and Daniel knew, was how the quiet partnership between them had begun to bloom into something more. He'd walk into meetings with 2 coffees, always bringing hers with an extra shot of vanilla. She'd check on Lila during his late meetings, often staying to read bedtime stories. The girl began calling her Miss Clara, and eventually just Clara. There were late nights, small glances, hands that brushed too long, conversations that dug deeper than business. One evening, after a fundraiser, Clara stood under a string of lights in the courtyard, laughing as Lila danced in circles. Daniel watched her from a distance, something unfamiliar stirring inside him. He hadn't felt this since his wife died. He hadn't wanted to feel anything since then. But Clara, she made him believe he could start again. Still, Clara kept her walls high. She was grateful. She admired him, but she'd been hurt before, by men who offered gifts instead of love, who admired her kindness but never respected her strength. Was Daniel different? Could someone like him, with wealth and power and endless choices, really see her for who she was? One evening, she asked him directly. "Why me, Daniel? There are 100 people more qualified to run your foundation. 100 women more glamorous, more polished." He looked at her for a long time. "Because when no one was watching, when you thought no one would care, you gave. You didn't ask. You didn't perform. You acted. That's the kind of person I want in my life. And honestly, the kind of person I want my daughter to grow up admiring." Her eyes filled. "I'm not perfect." "Good," he smiled. "Neither am I." On Lila's 5th birthday, the rooftop was transformed with balloons, flowers, and music. Clara arrived wearing a sky blue dress, unsure if it was too much, but Daniel's breath caught when he saw her. "You look like the sky just opened," he whispered. The night was full of laughter and light, and when Clara helped Lila cut her cake, Daniel leaned in and said, "She loves you, you know." "I love her too," Clara replied. He paused, then took a deep breath. "And I think I'm starting to love you." She froze. He looked nervous, vulnerable, utterly sincere. "Not because you saved my flight, but because you saved my heart." Clara stepped closer, eyes shining. "Then maybe, we both got the seat we needed." They didn't kiss then. They didn't need to. That moment, heartfelt and quiet, was louder than any grand gesture. Months passed. The foundation thrived. Clara moved into a new home, still modest, still humble, but now filled with warmth and visits from a certain little girl and her tall, gentle father. Their story became a legend in the company, though no one knew the full truth. Until one day, at the annual Read Corps Gala, Daniel stood before the audience, Clara beside him. "I want to tell you how Read Care started," he began. "Not with a strategy or a budget, but with a stranger, a nurse, a woman who gave up her only ticket home, for a man and his child she'd never met. That woman reminded me of the kind of world we could create, if we led with empathy." He looked at Clara. She didn't know who I was. But now, I know exactly who she is. She's the heart of this company. She's the reason I believe in second chances. And tonight, I'm proud to announce, he took a small box from his pocket and turned to her. Clara Jennings, will you marry me? Gasps, applause, tears. Clara blinked, stunned. Her hands trembled, and then she smiled. Yes. Clapperboard final monologue, from Daniel and Clara to the audience. Daniel. She gave up her seat, and I gained the love of my life. Clara. I gave up a ticket. But I got something money could never buy, belonging, purpose, and love. Together. So if you ever get the chance, let your heart lead. Be kind, give, because you never know whose life you'll change, or how your own might be rewritten. Yellow heart. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to our channel for more real and powerful stories like this. Your support helps us keep these messages alive. Yellow heart.